Hello folks, we are back. It is Monday. Hopefully you're all doing very, very, very well. Let's jump into some hobby nightmares before the daughter gets home from school, shall we? Because we don't have that long, and I've got to get through this before I have to do daddy duties today. So, speaking of daddy duties, Sarah is back, folks. And she says, "Hello, Mr. Northern Exile. This will be my last send-in for a while. Alright? I won't be playing much Warhammer for some time. You see, I'm pregnant. Yes, it did happen quickly." Dude, this woman's entire life has just been almost televised on the channel. It's crazy. Like, literally, like from meeting her husband to, like, getting married to, like, getting pregnant. We even had a hobby nightmare where they weren't together for a long time. Like, it was literally the first hobby nightmare Sarah sent in was a hobby nightmare about how she felt really awkward because this guy that she liked at the local store, basically she fluffed her chances with him because she's being really awkward and saying really awkward things. That was the hobby nightmare. And since then, things have developed into, like, now they're married and going to have a kid. You know, that kind of a thing. All on the channel. It's a miracle. It is what it is. Yes, it did happen quickly. I have been asked a lot why I wanted to have children so young, which is unusual for this day and age. I don't know how old you are. How old are you? Well, for me, I wanted to have them younger while it's easier for me to do so. Childbearing is no joke, and it's safer and your body can recuperate better when you're younger. I'll do my travelling when I'm older, I guess, and John has already travelled a lot. Plus, it means I get to be a stay-at-home mum and not have to work. Well, maybe I'll work a day or two for extra cash, but I've never been a career-driven person and won't miss all the workplace hassle. This is the thing that a lot of people don't seem to get, right? Being a stay-at-home mother is fine. It's all good, you know. If you can afford to do so, of course. You know, then being a stay-at-home mum is fine. Celebrate your man, though. This is my part in this, is that, you know, any time a woman gets to say, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mum, that means the man's out there busting his backside, right? Just like it used to be, by the way. This used to be the natural state of things. So, and the man in this situation, most of the time, was not applauded, but he got the big piece of chicken when he got home. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Like, he was the protector, he was the boss, not the boss, but you know what I mean? He's the guy, he's your man, right? He's your rock. I know a few dudes who are in relationships where the woman is a stay-at-home mum and doesn't, you know, stays at home, and he gets home and it's World War III every single night, and he's been working all day, and he comes home to just misery. Those marriages last about a year until he snaps. He snaps and either does something stupid, which gets him into trouble, or he leaves, right? And because a man, you can't burn the candle at both ends. So hopefully, not hopefully, I know you will, sir. I appreciate your dude. If he allows you to, you know, be a stay-at-home mum, not allow you, but like you can make the choice to be a stay-at-home mum because he's working his backside off. Give that guy the big piece of chicken when he gets home, if you know what I mean, right? Cool, awesome. Let's move on. Yeah, and work a day or two. That, dude, it's such a privilege. It's such a good thing, man. You're doing really awesome. This is great. So I thought I'd send you all the last of our stories in one big batch, since we probably won't be having any more for some time. They're nothing crazy, as normal, but hope you will all enjoy them nonetheless. Something funny to tell you, I'm still working for the time being, and many of my female colleagues have been asking me about Warhammer. Where do I play it? How do you start? Is it easy? Yeah, do you know why? Because you got yourself a man there. They're going to turn up thinking that there's going to be a lot of, like, Chad Studleys about the place. You know what they're going to do, right? They're going to turn up to your store going, oh my god, we're all the men. Going to be like, oh, right, yes, Sarah got the only one in this store. Are they interested in the hobby? Nope, not at all. They're only fishing for information because that's how I met John. Told ya. Told ya. I'm always saying what a great guy John is, and we got married comparatively quickly, and are now having a baby even quicker. Dude, women are really super ridiculously competitive. So when I was in my last relationship, I was engaged pretty quick because I was pretty, you know, convinced that this was the woman for me. And this girl had a cousin who was with a woman. Now, her cousin was really tall, really good looking, really athletic, I hated him. No, I didn't. He was lovely. I wanted to hate him, but he was also a really nice guy. So anyway, he was with this girl, and they'd been together for like 3 years, right? And he was thinking about popping the question to her. And essentially, I popped the question to his cousin, right? Because obviously, I was with his cousin. After about a few months of us being together. Because I just knew at the time, I thought, yeah, you know what? This is the one for me. I'm going to put my deposit down. Thank you very much. And his girlfriend at the time was really annoyed by this, and they got into like a huge argument because she said, look, North has just been with your cousin for like, what, 6 months? And he knows he wants to marry her, so he's got her a ring, and he's marrying her. Like, what's the problem? And it kind of showed him who she was, sort of a thing. Like, she got really bitter and angry about it, because they get really, really, really jealous. Especially about... I've noticed that the huge jealousy thing comes from stability. If you're in a stable relationship, and you have something that your friends want, and you're a woman... most of the girls I know get very paranoid and territorial. You know? Even with their best friends. So like, you're a woman, you could be with a man, and things are going really well, and you've got a really ideal relationship, and you're the model relationship. Everyone's like looking at you going, oh, that's really cool, you know, you guys kind of good looking, right? And then a friend you've known for years and years and years, and you're like sisters, will start flirting with your man. It just happens, dude. And by the way, do not BS me in the comments. Do not do that. I know the life I've lived, right? I've been around. I've been a part of these situations, and I've been around these situations. It does happen all the time. Any woman in the comments will tell you it does. So don't any men in the comments going, oh, yeah, okay. No. It happens, dude. It happens. It may even have happened to you, and you don't even notice. Because a lot of dudes, when they're married, their flirtation genes just switch off, right? It happens. Alright, so... yeah, this is what's happening with Sarah here. Like, you know, her friends have seen her get with a nice guy, and they're thinking, well, I want some of that. So they're going to all pick up Warhammer all of a sudden. Hey, guys, how about them White Templars, huh? You know, that kind of a thing. Anyway... they are fishing for information. Okay, yeah. And we got married comparatively quickly, and are now having a baby even quicker. So you're thinking it might be some sort of untouched reserve of men that will marry them. Well, it is that. I'm telling you now, a lot of men there will absolutely marry these ladies. But they won't be like John. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm hesitant to encourage it. I mean, what are they going to do? Flood a hobby store and lay dibs on the guys one by one? I've got lots of mixed feelings and thoughts for many reasons. The girls I work with, well, they aren't me. And the guys aren't John. And I don't know if there is anything going to be... there's going to be any more compatibility than in any other place. And I don't want to play matchmaker either. Anyway, something funny I thought you'd find interesting. On to the tales. Well, the thing you should do is be honest with them, Sarah. You should tell them, yeah, you know, the guys there are... they're wonderful guys. And they deserve happiness. And they will treat you really well if you end up dating them or even marrying them. But they're not chads, right? You're not going to walk in there and find, you know, 5 or 6 Henry Cavills walking around. Normally you won't anyway, right? There will be 1 or 2 eligible dudes there by their standards. And this is what I mean. When women say, oh, there's no good men out there, there's no men... No. There's no men that they want out there. That's the problem, right? The men are out there. Men are out there, and they're ready to get married. They're ready to settle down. They're ready to reward loyalty, is what they're ready to do, okay? All the dudes in that hobby store will be exactly the same way. But introducing your friends there might cause them more harm than good, because those friends will probably be rejecting most of them. Through ignorance more than anything else, right? I'm not saying those guys aren't eligible, they certainly are. But through sheer ignorance and them being normal ladies who don't really get nerdy stuff, they'll probably reject most of them. They seem like the kind of ladies, from what you've told me here, who are going to go to a hobby store and be surprised that there's nerds there. You know, that kind of a thing. Anyway, so I'd be honest with them if you want to introduce them. And then say, whatever you do in that store, it's none of my business, right? Let's move on to your first hobby nightmare, shall we? Broken models. When I started moving into John's place, my family helped me move. Thankfully, I don't own that much stuff, but girl standards anyway. By girl standards anyway. I was at John's, now our place, unpacking boxes, and my brothers and dad were driving my stuff over. I had all my models packed safely, A bunch of things were magnetised into my carry case, and my other minis were in boxes surrounded by cotton balls. I was putting some clothes away, chatting happily about whatever, when my brother calls me. Hey, what's up? I asked. We dropped the box, my brother says. My heart skips a beat. Which one? I ask with trepidation. It's got all the red and green models in it. Is anything broken? I asked, perhaps already guessing that if nothing was broken, he wouldn't have called me. Yeah, sorry, Sarah. I tripped on my way to the car. They landed on the driveway. We're picking up the pieces. Looks like everything's kind of smashed. I start to feel tears at the edge of my eyes, all my demons trashed. But my brothers were only trying to help, and I shouldn't really be angry with them. Do you know what? You're completely right there. Yeah, it's really frustrating and really awful. But accidents happen. Do you know what I mean? I say nothing for 3 seconds and then... You dickheads, I yell. As I'm ending the call, I hear raucous laughter on the other end. Brothers. Honestly, North. Wow. What the hell? Oh, right. Okay, sorry. I've ruined this. I missed a line here. There's silence on the other end. Damn it, Sarah, you're supposed to get angry, not upset, he said. Your models are fine, we're just playing with you, my brother said with mirth. Brothers, honestly, North. Their regular pranks on each other and occasionally me is not something I'll miss. Perhaps one day, but not time soon, let me tell you. And when I was a tyke and they started their mischief on me, my brother told me, Sarah, try not to get too upset with them. Boys do this sort of thing, and it's their way of including you. It's endearing, I suppose, but sometimes they get me really good, and I'm not impressed in the least. They seem to love it, though, pranking and getting pranked in return. One time, I came home after nightfall. I had watched a horror movie called The Fourth Kind earlier in the week. Everybody was in bed. The house was dark and quiet. I tiptoed to my room, not wanting to wake anybody. And as I opened the door, I saw this tall, black, humanoid shape standing in my room, silhouetted by the outside light of my window. In that second, I thought it was a freaking alien or real demon or something waiting for me in the room. I have no shame in confessing, I have never been so scared. I let out this terrifying wail and collapsed to the ground in utter fright. A little bit of pee may have actually come out. My brothers, my stupid bone-headed brothers, came bursting out from their bedrooms, howling with laughter. One of them turns the light on in my room, and standing by the window is a huge blow-up alien. The typical grey alien. Tall, thin, hairless, long arms. They knew it would scare the absolute shit out of me because of that movie I'd watched earlier too. The fucking assholes. So, they were laughing uncontrollably until my mother arrived on the scene, that is. She cussed them out pretty good. Don't think I saw any of them crack a smile for a week. My reciprocation has been few and far between, but once I did get my middle brother quite well. He had a girl over, and they were watching a movie in the lounge room. My middle brother is definitely not a nerd. His thing is sports, UFC and cars. He is also very particular about his image. So here he is, sitting next to this very pretty girl watching some action movie, being cool as a cucumber. I stomp right in front of them, holding a tray of my Imperial Knights. Oh my god. How many times have I told you, don't leave your plastic robots in the garage? I almost ran over them backing the car in. I'll put them in the study, but I'm sick of cleaning up your toys, I say to him. He looks at me, mouth moving up and down, then looks at his date, then back to me. That's right, got you. Then I briefly introduce myself to his date and walk away before he can say anything. He certainly was not happy. I don't think she cared, but my brother would think she cared. And what's he going to say? No, my little sister plays with the grim-looking robots, not me. Yeah, right. So if you are a sister, this is the way to do it, right? You wait until he's got a girl over. That's what you do. You wait until a girl is on the scene. And my sister did it all the time. Like, I would get my sister all the time. Mainly because, like, everyone in my family knows she's the favourite out of the two of us. Like, everyone, like, literally, like, my mum's favourite is my sister. Like, no, hands down. She will always deny it, but everybody else in the family is like, don't be stupid. Of course it's your sister. It's obvious, right? It's her. So I would always go after her, like, not in a nasty way, but I would always prank her and stuff. But she would always wait until there was a girl. Either I was talking to a girl, or a girl would come over and we took a shine to each other or whatever. And she would then, that's the time she would do embarrassing stuff. It was just like, you little bitch, you know, because she knew exactly where to get me. You know, embarrassing me in front of my friends, they're going to be like, yeah, North is dickhead. But tell us something we don't know. Do you know what I mean? But like in front of girls, nah, that's kicking me in the balls. Anyway, our next story is John has clock troubles. John went to a tournament recently. A very small one with only a dozen players or so. Last few times John has played at tournaments, he was finding he was only getting to use a third or a quarter of the game time because his opponent was taking far too long to complete their turns. On one occasion, John lost because he was rushing to finish his last turn on only 90 seconds of play and forgot to do something which cost him first place. John isn't one to kick stones. He simply viewed it as partly his fault for not playing with a clock and decided to always use one in future tournaments. So he bought his block and packed it for next time. His clock, you mean? Yeah. So he bought his clock and packed it for next time. The first game of the tournament, he is paired into a fellow playing the new Subterranean Assault Tyranids detachment. It's a really cool army, which focuses on the big tunneling Tyranids like Trigons and Morlocks, making tunnels the rest of the army can jump out of. The tunnels can come really close to the enemy units, and their Tyranids come pouring out of the tunnels and are able to charge the turn they arrive, so it can be super powerful. John was playing demons, as always, which are just as mobile as the Tyranids because every demon deep strikes and can return to reserves. They can also deep strike very close and still charge too. John and the Tyranids player introduce themselves. His name is Rami. John says the same thing nearly verbatim before every game, and I quote, everything can deep strike in my army. I can return up to 2 units to reserve at the end of your turn. I can deep strike within 6 inches and charge for a command point or within the shadow of chaos. I can advance and charge for a command point. I have no reactive moves and no fights first. Anything else you want to know? Unquote. Dude, that's pretty much covering everything you need to know. That's really clever. Like, he's boiled down all of his rules that an opponent really needs to know into 2 sentences. That's great. John nearly always plays the same detachment, Demonic Incursion. So this spiel says all the gotchas the army has and doesn't have, essentially. Because he nearly always plays Incursion, he recites this more or less word for word at the start of every single game he plays. John told Rami he would like to play with a clock. Is that really necessary? I'm not playing a horde army or anything, Rami says. I don't know, man. I'd feel more comfortable. I've been stung in the past for not using a clock. I think it's the fairest way and neither of us have to worry about the other person being slow. John replied. Rami rolled his eyes. Fine then. So they start the clock and deployment. They are both pretty quick to get their armies out and Rami goes first. Rami moves his army cautiously, but then deep strikes a Trigon into the corner of John's deployment zone and places a tunnel there. Rami smiles up at John victoriously. Rami is waiting for John to try and confront him about the usually illegal move. So he has the enchantment to deep strike turn 1? John asks calmly. Yeah, Rami replies. Okay, nice. Rami seems a little perplexed that John isn't worried about his huge monster about to vomit forth a heap of units into his back line. Rami continues his turn. Okay, that's it. Your turn, Rami says. John puts the clock on him. I play a command point to return 2 units to reserve at the end of your turn. Scarbrand and the Bloodletters, I think. John begins his move, advancing the infamous Faticus onto the centre objective, where he will happily sit all game, thanks to how hard he is to kill, and some other sacrificed pieces around. He keeps Baelacor safe behind a ruin, as you should. Baelacor is love, Baelacor is life. He is the greatest of the demon princes. This is why I use him as the main villain for the Exiled Blades. He's the best demon prince, because he has flaws, and he's not a little bitch. That's why. Anyway, dude, he's called the Dark Master. Alright, if you don't think he's the best demon prince, suck my balls. Alright, cool. So he keeps Baelacor safe behind a ruin. Then, it comes to his reinforcement step. I'll deep strike Scarbrand here, 6 inches away from your Trigon, the one in John's deployment zone, and the bloodletters next to Scarbrand. John explains as he does. Mate, you can't do that, Remy protests. John looks at the board, seeing if he has made a mistake. Why? John asks. It's turn 1. You can't deep strike turn 1. I can because I have an enchantment that lets me, but you can't, Remy is saying confidently. Yeah, you can't deep strike turn 1 if you start in reserves, but that rule doesn't apply to units already on the board that then go into reserve, John says. Inside his mind, he can already see how the argument will go. No, you're wrong, Remy says, but somewhat less confidently now. I'll show you, one sec. John gets his phone out and shows Remy the Pariah Nexus tournament companion. See? The cool rules actually allow Deep Strike to arrive turn 1, funnily enough, but the Pariah Nexus rules don't allow it. Here, look. John points out the reserves restrictions rules, and I'll type them out here. Before I go any further, okay, I'm sure John is a lovely guy, but this is why I don't play at tournaments. This right here. Because what John has done, he's found a loophole in the rules that lets him Deep Strike turn 1. Any game that relies on you bringing a powerful list by finding loopholes is a shitty game. John's not a shitty player. This is a shitty game and a shitty rule set. Just saying. Doesn't happen in one-page rules. Just saying. Just saying. By the way, we did Exile Fest, which was a larger tournament than this. No arguments. No arguments. No rules clarifications. I think there was 1 or 2 where it was like, oh, how does a ramming vehicle work in one-page rules? And yeah, but apart from that, nothing, you know? Just saying. Let's read out the rule, though. Reserves units cannot arrive on the field during the first battle round, excluding units placed into strategic reserves during the battle. John continues. So, because Scarbrand and the Bloodletters started on the battlefield and then I placed them into reserves during the battle, they can come down in turn 1. It was the exact same thing for Leviathan. Leviathan were the mission rules for before Pariah Nexus. That's busted! You should have told me you could do that. That's a huge gotcha, man, Remy says, shaking his head. I told you before we deployed. I can put anything in reserve and everything has Deep Strike, John countered. You didn't tell me you can Deep Strike in turn 1, though. Well, that's not an army rule, that's a Pariah Nexus rule, which has been out for nearly a year, I think. And it was the same one rule for the Leviathan, which came out in 10th edition, so it's pretty much a core rule. I don't need to explain those. Plus, you didn't tell me your Trigon could Deep Strike turn 1, John laid out. Remy was still not happy. Nah, this isn't fair. I'm calling a tournament organizer. Sure, man, no problem. But I'm putting the time on you, though, John says. Are you serious? It's your turn, Remy says. Remy, I'm playing legally, and you want to bring a tournament organizer when I showed you the rule. The clock has been running on me the whole time. My time is getting eaten because you're stopping my turn. The clock's going on you, man. Fine, Remy says. Dude, okay, this is like... How do I put this? Like, John's being reasonable, right? John is technically right. You know what I mean? Again, another reason why I don't play tournaments. John is technically right, but I still would not enjoy this game if I was playing John. Right? I'd want to, as soon as John pulled this, I'd want to get this game over as quickly as possible. I'd be like, okay, cool. Alright, cool. Yeah, cool. Go through it. Go through the motions. Because, yeah, I wouldn't be enjoying this at all. Again, it's in the rules. No problem with that. But this is partly the reason why I don't play 40k. Alright? This is one of the main reasons why I don't do it. Simply because... Well... Again, I can see this is all legal, and there's no problem here. There isn't. It's all legal, it's all above board. But these kind of situations happen more and more often, and a lot of the time, it's not really the player's fault. It's the rules. The rules allow you to do things like this, and they even prod you to do things like this, and just like that one in Pariah Nexus did. But all it's going to do is result in confusion and anger for people actually playing the game. Actually on the tabletop playing the game. And that's pretty sucky. I don't like it, which is why I wouldn't enjoy this game. Anyway. A tournament organizer comes over and Remy explains what John just did. The tournament organizer looks at the board. So, what's the issue? What am I ruling on here? the tournament organizer inquires. Well, it just seems unfair. You didn't tell me you could do this, Rami goes on. The TO looks at John, and John says, well, I told him I can return units to reserve and everything as deep strike, and Rami went first, John shrugs. The TO looks at Rami. John thinks the TO has had to deal with Rami a lot in the past because the TO gives Rami a sort of, we've spoken about this, look. The TO declares, look, there's no issue here. I see the Trigon also deep strike turn 1. I hope Rami mentioned it could before the battle this time, but keep playing, and walked away. John put the clock back on him and returned to playing. Scarbrand and the Bloodletters make the charge and easily kill the Trigon. The Bloodletters' bases also finish on the tunnel and destroy it so other Tyranids can't come through it either. Alrighty, that's my turn, back to you, John says. Rami takes a long time with his next 3 turns. He is worried about essentially giving away one of his key units turn 1 for no gain and spends a lot of time thinking about what to do. He moves units, moves them back, goes to shoot and then stops and says he's going to activate a different unit first, rolls a charge, and then takes the dice back before they rest. John lets most of this go, but intercedes when he has to stop something really unfair. Because Rami has been giving so much time into planning his moves, he has done a heap of damage to John, and the game is quite close. On one occasion, Rami charges Baelacor with a unit of 20 Hormagaunts. He rolls super high too. He starts double ranking them when they still have plenty of movement to get base to base. Hang on, man, you rolled a 10, so those Gaunts there can get base to base with Baelacor, which means they have to. If you can get base to base, you must get base to base, and the rest must end their charge closer to Baelacor, John interrupts. Oh, right, yeah, Rami says, starting to move his Gaunts to surround Baelacor. As he is doing so, he realises the 20 Hormagaunts are going to block the charge of his Screamer Killer, which was also lined up to charge Baelacor. Rami starts moving the Gaunts back. Actually, I want to charge the Screamer Killer first, Rami says, and goes to roll for it. No, it's way too late. Once you've moved your models, it's way too late. In a tournament, anyway. No, man, you've already rolled the Gaunt and started moving them. You've seen the charge result. It's very unfair to take it back now, John says. It's an honest mistake, one he has made on many occasions, but he has given many takebacks already, and this one is kind of a big deal. You're just not letting me because the Screamer Killer could kill Baelacor, Rami accuses. Yeah, that's a huge deal, but you made the mistake, and you've already seen how far the Gaunts can go. I've given you heaps of takebacks already, dude. I'm not letting you take back this one as well. John shrugged. He doesn't need to be so gracious. He beats himself out of the game. Rami ran out of time during his movement phase in turn 4. John still had 34 minutes remaining on his time. Most of the game so far had been Rami thinking, taking back decisions and rolling dice. John had played very little Warhammer except to roll for saves. Rami, that's it, you're out of time. You can still roll saves and score primaries, but you can't do anything else, John says. You've got heaps of time, give me some of yours, Rami says. John said gently, man, we are nearly through the round and you've used more than half of the time. I've let you go take back things you've missed and I've been pretty much easygoing, so I want to use the rest of my time for myself now. And he did, and he won. Rami was a sore loser about it, complaining to everybody who would listen. If he would just give me 10 more minutes of his time, man, if we weren't using a clock, this game would be mine. This is why clocks are unfair. John lets him go on. No one seems to take him very seriously. Rami went on to lose both other games that day, but by the end he was pretty livid. John said John said maybe he was being vindictive in not sharing the ample time he had left, but if Rami wanted to use his time planning everything meticulously to maximize his score, then that was on him. Using the time wisely is part of the competitive game. Yeah. Well, I would like to thank John for giving a really good example of why I don't play competitive games at these types of fucking tournaments. Oh my god. Okay, John did nothing wrong here, but both players are the nightmare for North, right? I don't want to play either of these two dudes. I'm being honest. And only one of them did anything wrong, but I would not want to play either of these two dudes. Honestly. This sounds like pulling teeth to me. It just does. Not for me. Not for me. Anyway. Let's finish off this round of Sarah's hobby nightmares and say goodbye to her so you can go and have her baby with the brusque Bretonian. Back when John used to play fantasy before the end times destroyed it, there was a funny character at his local Games Workshop. His name was Andrew. His background was Malaysian or Thai or Singaporean. I'm not sure if it was because he came from one of those cultures, but he said exactly what was on his mind all the time. He wasn't rude, just sincerely abrupt. Yeah, it's those dudes and Eastern Europeans and Polish people. Yeah. Like, it can get... Speaking to Polish people and Eastern Europeans, see how I've used different... They're not the same, right? Yeah. Can be exhausting. Because, like, you're like, dude, did you mean to be that harsh? Not all the time they don't. They're just how they are. You just got to get on with it. You know what I mean? But you just think, bloody hell, did you need to be that harsh? Like, I've had business partners, not Shemek, not Minimaker, but I've worked with people from Eastern Europe before. In the model space, and they've upset Western suppliers just by how abrupt they are. They're just like, you know, they're very no nonsense. They're very just black is black and grey is grey and white is white. And you know, Western people, we have a lot of inflections and a lot of not passive aggressiveness, but a lot of, you know, under the cover things, social cues that we just naturally pick up on. That Eastern Europeans just don't. You know what I mean? So, I've had a lot of Eastern Europeans who are in business say to me, hey, you know, why do people not email me back? Or why do people not just give me a straight no? Well, it's because Western people don't like confrontation, especially nerds. So rather than giving you a no, they'll just ignore you, and they'll hope that you get the message. You know? Whereas an Eastern European person will go, no, I'm not interested, I don't think your product's very good, right? That's what they'll say. And then the Western person will go, this arsehole, right? Yeah. Same thing's happening here. Anyway. For example, Andrew would walk in, see one of the regulars painting a dreadnought and say, your Devastators look better. Then push his glasses back up his nose and walk away. Not an insult, not polite, simply what he thought. Another time, he approached somebody who was gaming, interrupted their match, and said to one of the players, you need deodorant now. Want to borrow some of mine? On at least one occasion, he said to the manager, you don't get paid much to run this place, right? That is a shame. Yeah, he was a happy, friendly guy, though. Dude, this guy seems alright. Like, this guy just seems like he's no bullshit. I'm getting a whiff of autism. A little whiff here. Because I've got autistic friends who do this. They're just like, yeah, you stink of shit, man. Go and wipe your ass. That has been said in front of me before. Not to me, but in front of me. Yeah, you stink of shit. Go and wipe your ass. That kind of stuff. Anyway. He was a happy, friendly guy, though. He always had his headphones and backpack with him, covered in anime pins and patches. He also played Bretonia, and he played exactly how he thought they would operate in the lore. Bretonians would pray at the start of every game and give up first turn for protection. Depending on the faction you played against, this was a good or a bad move. Andrew made his Bretonians pray every game, no matter what the circumstances, because that's what the Bretonians would do, quote unquote. Dude, he's a closet role player, I love this guy. His first turn, which he always went second because of the praying, he moved everything as far as he could and then rolled for charges. It didn't matter whether it was a good target or a bad target, or a likely charge or not. Move forward as far as possible and charge. Because his opponent didn't want to be charged in most cases, they kept their units back, so the Bretonians failed pretty much everything. Then the opponent would counter-charge or shoot them to pieces the next turn, and by the end of turn 1 or 2, the game was over. Andrew would then lament about how broken the other army was, this was regardless of the faction, scratch his head about why he didn't win, and then conclude he would never beat that faction. I love this guy. I love this guy. Like, this is, in a weird way, he's very Bretonian. Because Bretonians would do this, they would charge forwards, get mullered, and then be like, why does this keep happening? It must be because they're not playing fair. These dishonorable people with their arrows and their technology, you know, this is just, yeah. He's playing the right army. This happened every game of Andrew's that John observed. Andrew was also of the opinion that Grail Knights were as good in the game as they were in the lore. In the lore, the Grail Knights were equal, if not superior, to Chaos Knights, High Elf Dragon Knights, and even the Vampiric Blood Knights. They were the epitome of uncorrupted human achievement, a Grail Knight champion being able to go toe-to-toe with an Orc War Boss or Chaos Lord. In the game, though, they were a mediocre unit belonging to an old, weak army book that had not kept up to date with the current edition. So, when Andrew's Grail Knights failed to kill something or were wiped out, this left him completely discombobulated. A great word, by the way. John noticed that Andrew's opponents would quickly clean the floor with him and then end the interaction without any advice or friendly conversation. John thought Andrew's candour made him unpopular in the store and made him the subject of some ridicule and the butt of some jokes. Although John won't admit it, he has a soft spot for outcasts. John is similar to outcasts in a way. The only difference being John chooses to be solitary for the most part. Next time Andrew asked around for a game, John took him up on it. John took his ogres and made a relatively soft list for the Bretonians to play into. A heap of regular ogre bulls, some gorges, noblars, saber-tooths, and some standard man-eaters. Andrew brought his list. All knights, of course, and knight-errant, knights of the realm, questing knights, grail knights, all of them. John asked if he had any peasants, particularly the longbowmen. No, Bretonian knights hate peasants, and the knights don't like ranged combat, Andrew replied, seemingly insulted. Good on you, Andrew. Good on you. Tell this casual what time it is, and lose like a man. John is a huge lore buff. Like, huge. He says, well, the knights don't like range from themselves, but remember they look down at the peasants who are inferior, so the knights see it as only natural for the peasants to use longbows and trebuchets since they are lesser men. And most knights' armies have some peasants in them always. Have you read the Bretonian knight books? Every Bretonian army in there has some peasants, John says. Oh really? Andrew asks. Yeah man, for sure. Better the peasants take the brunt of the charge and kill the weaker enemies. It's more glory for the knights. They have to cut through less chaff. John explained. Oh, Andrew said, nodding along. You're right. I do have some bowmen. Well, they aren't painted though. They don't deserve it. That's okay. Let's just adjust your army a bit, shall we? So John helped Andrew amend his list a bit, putting in some of the peasant longbowmen and the mounted archers and a huge horde of the men-at-arms. John also had Andrew include a wizard with the Law of Life, which helped make the humans much tougher. Andrew commented on how much bigger the army was now. So they start their game, and Andrew prays, so John goes first. John shoots his man-eaters, and some move stuff around, but that's it. Andrew starts his turn, and as usual, begins by moving everything as far as possible forwards. John asks, why are you doing that, man? Going to be some mighty long charges? It's what Bretonians do. They charge to wipe out the foe under their lances and hooves, John explains. Yeah, but you need to actually get some charges off to do that. Bretonians aren't some crazed orcs or corn worshippers that sprint forwards to close as quickly as possible. They are civilized men. They are clever and smart. They plan. Look, your longbowmen can do some decent damage against my lightly armored ogres, and do serious damage to my noblars and saber-tooths. And since your knights are mounted, you have a bigger threat range than my ogres. This means I pretty much have to come to you, John says. Ooh, what's threat range? Andrew asks. I love him. John laughed and went on to explain that threat range meant the minimum distance it takes for a unit to be a threat. John showed Andrew how he should measure the knight's movement from the enemy unit back towards his knights, then be within 7 inches of that spot. This means that next turn, even if the enemy does not move, you have a healthy, relatively charged range. In Fantasy, any mounted unit rolled 3d6 for a charge and picked the highest 2, so a 7-inch charge for knights was pretty safe. If you do your movement this way, it means my ogres pretty much have to attempt a long charge themselves or wait to be charged in turn, John went on, and then helped show him how to do the measurements. Throughout the game, John shows Andrew how to do other things too, like explaining the refused flank deployment tactic, how to angle the enemy's charge so you have a strong counter charge. What Kyle looked at what magic law was and what magic law was best for Bretonians and things like that. While they were playing, another guy, Kyle, came over. Kyle looked at how the ogres were losing and scoffed. Huh. Ogre balls against heavy cav? What were you thinking? Are you trying to throw the game or something? That's a stupid pick. John and all the guys were pretty young back then, late teens and early 20s, so there was a lot of immaturity. John was more fiery back then, less tempered, I'd say. Did you bring your Chaos Warriors? John asked. Yeah, Kyle replied. Good, let's play next. 2k points, go away. John stated, then went back to playing Andrew. As their game wrapped up, John noticed Kyle and a few others putting together what would undoubtedly be the perfect anti-ogre list. John put the challenge to Kyle because he also knew how Kyle plays and was pretty confident that he could beat him. Andrew won the game, though not without losses himself. It might have been his first win ever, and yeah, John did let him win, but Andrew needed it. Oh ho! Thanks, John. That was good. I've learned a lot. Andrew was nodding along happily, moving his glasses up his nose again. No problem, man. Bretonia may be an old book, but they still have some punch. You ready then? Kyle called over. Give me a few minutes to write a list, man, John replied. John's list against Andrew was soft. The one he made now was hard-boiled through many competitive games. John also had a good idea what Kyle would take. The 8th edition Warriors of Chaos army book had been out for a while by this stage. It was powerful and popular, so John knew the faction quite well. John made a tailored list against the Chaos Warriors because he didn't like Kyle and was very competitive. There would be some sort of very quick death wizard aiming to get the spell Purple Son of Xereus. It would probably be mounted on a manticore or unbarded horse. The wizard would move to one flank of the ogre list and try to cast Purple Sun, being a magical vortex. He used the huge circle template and would hopefully fly down the whole ogre line. Each affected model had to take an initiative test or be killed outright. Ogres had an initiative of 2, so it was a solid way to destroy the whole army. There would also be Chaos Knights, because they were faster than ogres and could charge the ogres first, robbing them of their gut charging rule. When ogres made a charge, they did impact damage to their targets. There would likely be a hell cannon to make the ogres flee, since their leadership was kind of average. To top it off, a bunch of Chaos Warriors to cut up the relatively unarmoured ogres. Spoiler alert, Kyle's list had all of these things, except the hell cannon. John's list was a huge unit of Iron Guts. They were a troop choice, and had heavy armour and great weapons. With the characters, they formed a frontage of 6 inches, and could fight... 6 inches. A frontage of 6, and could fight in 3 ranks using the Horde rules. So much better than the regular bulls. John's lord was a slaughtermaster, the ogre wizard lord with the law of the Great Maw, ogre magic. His other characters were a bruiser with magical standard and a law of beast butcher. The bruiser had some ogre magic banner that buffed the unit somehow, and the Iron Guts had a magic banner with +1 leadership. John also had a unit of Sabertooths, some Noblar trappers, man-eaters, a Thunder Tusk, and maybe a Gorger, he can't remember. John set up the army, and Kyle said, "That's not the same list you used last time." Yeah, that's right, John said. Dude, this is so shitty, like, he wants him to use, like, the terrible list from before. Kyle went first, and zoomed his wizard on Manticore up the flank. He tried for a Purple Sun, and got the cast value, but the Butcher used a Dispel Scroll to get rid of it. Dispel Scrolls were a magic item every army could take, but you only had one and could only use it once. Kyle kept most of his army back, hoping for the Death Wizard to do most of the damage. John moved his Iron Gut into a threat range of his warrior horde, marched his Saber Tusks in the front of the Chaos Knight on an angle. This meant, because of how movement worked in fantasy, the Knights pretty much had to charge the Tusks right in front of them to move forwards, but would then end their charge on an angle and facing the advancing ogres. The only other option was to spend all of their movement to pivot and trying to get around. John also kept his other units staggered from the Iron Guts, so if a Purple Sun did get off, it wouldn't affect everything. The Man-Eaters were on the opposite flank to the Death Wizard, So John pivoted them and moved forwards to face them. Now, man-eaters were pretty great. They could pick a brace of pistols that had 24-inch range and could choose 2 special rules at the start of a battle. John had them pick sniper and poison. John's magic phase was just buffs on the Iron Guts. The Slaughtermaster had an item that gave him +1 to hit and wound. John thinks it was called the Book of Asher or something. Along with his wizard level, the Slaughtermaster was at an amazing +5 to cast spells. The man-eaters shot, and John said they were using their sniper rule to aim just for the sorcerer. They needed 6s to hit though, because they were poison. It was an auto wound. Alright, so if you hit on a 6, you just auto wound him. Okay. Heroes back in those days only had 2 wounds unless you had something quite big. The man-eaters killed the sorcerer by themselves, and Kyle was pretty shocked. Without his trump card, Kyle got pretty much tabled by the end of turn 2. The Iron Guts destroyed everything in their path, the Knights got peppered down by man-eaters, and Thundertusk shooting. And the Thundertusk gives out a always strikes last aura around itself, so the Chaos Warriors' high initiative didn't help them. At the end of the game, Andrew came in, leaned over the table, and yelled, "Booyah!" Kyle and John never played again. So I think that's pretty much everything we have for now. Hope you liked them. We will continue listening to the channel as always. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, if John has any more, send them in. This is really, really cool to get an update on where your situation is going and what's going on there. So, yeah, hopefully have a pleasant birth. Make sure everything's all right. Feel free to name it North if you want to, but you don't have to. But, you know, I'll be very hurt if you don't. Anyway, I love you a long time. I will see you tomorrow for some more 40k rantage. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.